Making fun of death. Why Gen Z can stop thinking about the end. This generation is a fucking paradox. We are classified as quote-unquote Zs, a term pertaining to unstable teenagers rather than zombies, but in reality, we are not far from being a zombie. Because this generation is half dead. Either dead in the inside or literally dead, 6 feet below the ground. That's our reality at yan ang pag-usapan natin for this episode. Hello, this is Seiji, and you are now listening to D-BUNK Podcast, decoding the world's weirdness, calling out bullshit, and having a damn good time. In our generation where lines, ang sarap pamatay, mamatay na sana ako, papatayin ko na sarili ko, shit like that, are quite natural to hear. Unfortunately, is how unaliving oneself can be natural as well. Somehow, naging normal occurrence na siya sa henerasyon na to. Pero bakit nga ba? Well, there's a lot of factors, but death itself, it's a topic na maraming perspectives. Oftentimes, it would inflict fear sa mga tao, and to some sort of relief still. Fear, kasi we will be descending to the unknown. Fear of the uncertainty. Fear of what will really come before us due to the biblical testaments that we've been reading, knowing all throughout our lives, and that really gives more of the fear factor and relief, because some people, including myself, would like to believe that there is pure nothingness after life, or to some, they feel relief for the reason that they feel, or sila mismo alam nila, that they have served their purpose on earth and shall come to the kingdom of the man upstairs. So different topics equals to different perspectives. Of course, regarding a lot of things, that's the same case. Pero bakit natin ito pinag-uusapan? Because I believe that the association between Gen Z and death runs deeper than just dark memes or a mere fascination with horror. It's cultural, emotional, and psychological. Let's debunk death's deeper linkage with the Generation Z in 5 key points. 1. Born into crisis. You are classified as a Gen Z if you were born from the year 1997 to 2012. During this timeline, we were born into the world while there was an ongoing financial crisis, school shootings, climate change, and most recently, we had to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. Events like these can normalize instability, fear, and the fragility of life from a young age. Also, natatandaan nyo ba yung time na people are speculating that the world was gonna end in 2012? So, tingin ko that was a pretty good add-up to this topic of death. Kasi pinanganak tayo in a time where we are so exposed to a lot of problems. When the world feels like it's going to end every few years, death stops being distant. 2. Hyper-awareness through the internet. The internet is a Milky Way of information, a gushing river of knowledge, but also a potential dark hole that can suck us in when we are not being mindful enough. With its hidden dangers, there's a lot of things we still need to consider, and that can cause danger upon us when we are not being wise about it. Gen Z is coined as the digital age, which is characterized by the widespread use of digital technologies such as computers and the internet. Lalo na't we can literally witness before our eyes na mababata, mapapatanda, they all have gadgets. We are at the point where technology is much more than just leisure or a professional tool. It had evolved into a necessity, an essential to a whole population, even the whole population of the world itself, meaning to say. And that means lahat tayo may access, most especially Gen Z. And the Generation Z is extremely online. That means we have constant exposure to global tragedies, access to raw footages of violence, brutality, and gore, and have algorithmic trauma right in the palm of our hands. Because death and disaster are trending regularly. I personally have witnessed a lot of these things, not just because I'm being political. And nakikita ko yung aftermath and damages of wars between countries, and even here sa sarili nating bansa where we are known for, not really known for, but there's an abundant circumstances where there's gun violence and police brutality among humanity. I don't freaking know, but yeah. But also out of curiosity, I've seen a man's lung expand out of his body while he is still breathing and still begging. And of course, that's out of sight, and I shall not depict more because I don't think that's appropriate for publishing. So we are not just hearing about death, we are watching it. And that seems to draw us closer to death even more. 3. Mental health crisis. This is a good key point to tackle. Marami akong narinig kasi, nababasa. Expressions like, ano ba tong kabataan ngayon? Sobrang sensitive, sobrang aarte, o kung ano na lang nalalaman ng mga yan, hindi naman kami ganyan dati. Exactly. Kasi dati, they weren't sat down to talk about their problems with their parents. Most especially not a professional. They never heard, moreover felt the validity of what they were going through. The only thing they could do was to force it all in themselves, to force everything, to keep everything within them until they do the unthinkable. That's wrong. And what's more wrong is that they're pushing the same things onto us, onto our generation, to quote-unquote toughen us up. What's worse about this type of mindset is that rather than having the result na gusto nila, na hindi maging sensitive or madamdamin sa mga bagay-bagay sa buhay ang isang Gen Z, is that it causes the total opposite. We are being shoved into a darker place further and further just to build the facade na malakas tayo, we're strong, we are not sensitive, only for us to blow up eventually. And yet again, moving us closer to death. There's also a lot of research just proving that rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation are highest among Gen Z compared to other generations. Death is constantly on our minds because first, we are carrying something personal. Second, we see death as a release. Hence, that's why we are able to talk about it as a way to cope, even if it's through humor. When it seems like there's nowhere else to go, death becomes our fastest escape. 4. Dark humor equals coping mechanism. Memes that imply the end, ironic TikToks, jokes about mental illnesses. They are not just a bunch of senseless internet crap. It's a way of having a hold of your fear. Pag pakiramdam mong mas kontrolado mo kasi ang isang bagay, mas nagiging kampante ka, mas nagiging kalmado ka. And that's not a bad way to cope. It makes the uncontrollable feel manageable. That brings some sort of peace within us. Dark humor is also a way to share, to connect with people. To connect with people over shared pain. We get to empathize and be empathized by people that are going through the same or similar hardships as us. And that, I think, is the most beautiful spark to witness in our world full of darkness. 5. Spiritual shift. There's a lot of fascination growing in this generation, like astrology, tarot, reincarnation, and other spiritual related stuff. Although it's not just leisure that can cause spiritual shift, kasi bukod sa mga yun, it can also be caused by major life events. I learned self-harm as early as 13. It was my way to cope with anger and frustration. I would punch walls, sarili ko mismo, myself, sa sahig, even if it means breaking a knuckle or having ube looking like hands. And of course, like many of you who are listening, the hope for the end is in the back of my head all throughout the process. I started to fear death though in 2020. Hindi lang dahil may COVID na witness ko na marami namamatay, marami akong kakilala na namamatay. But I also witnessed my grandmother fight cancer. I witnessed her last breath. I helped clean her body and dress it up. And there, I realized that life, the cycle of it, can be pretty cruel. The fear got worse in 2022 when my life flashed before my fucking eyes due to a severe asthma attack. Yung body ko, putang ina, should I be cussing? My limp body was just sprawled across the middle of the doorway, and I just closed my eyes, just hearing my neighbors panicking over me. What will they fucking do? Do I fucking die in this place? Yeah, but don't worry, I'm okay now. But I did almost died again this year, back in February, and it was way worse, way more painful, and way more closer. I can feel it, like I'm an inch there. But it did knock the fear out of my system a little bit. So instances like these can surely make you think about death a little too often. Ikaw, how about you? What's your story? Share your experiences in our podcast by sending an email to d.bunk.pod@gmail.com. Pwede ka din mag-send there ng mga questions mo, topic requests, anything, any fun ideas, just to hype up, bring the fun out of this shit that I'm trying to work with. And I'm also thinking about just creating a G forum, but for now, the email would do. Always remember, you are not alone. A whole generation's bunking up with you. This is Seiji, shredding our life wonders into bits. Have a good one.